Hey there, my name's Ganache, and I am a game collecting addict. Now, before I start this video, I think it's important to preface that although I don't see myself completely giving up game collecting, it is something I'll be taking a huge step back from for a very, very long time. Now, what do I mean by this? So, as the title of the video suggests, I am done game collecting. And this is not a decision that I came to lightly, as weird as that sounds, because at the end of the day, it's just video games. But it's something that I've started to realize that is not really sustainable, especially with where I'm trying to go in life. I guess a little bit more of a transparent view from it, non-gaming related take, non-gaming related take. I'm trying to really advance my career. I'm an engineer right now, and there's a lot of things that I'm trying to do right within the next few years that is really going to help set me up to be in a better position to eventually start a family, eventually raise kids, and just have the type of life I want to live. As much as I love video games, as much as I love gaming, there are different avenues within those spaces and within that hobby that I'm trying to take that game collecting isn't really fitting in with right now. As you all can see right now, and if you've been paying attention to the TikTok, which is something that has been generating a lot of the reels I've been posting, or the shorts, right? It's also been generating a lot of the YouTube shorts, because that's the accurate term. I've been being really active on those platforms, and I've been really active with trying to make sure that I'm growing my following, making sure I'm getting better at this whole making content thing. And it's been tough for sure. It's really taken up more of my time than I thought I would. And I want to be a lot more consistent with it, especially here on YouTube, because YouTube is kind of where the dream started. It's where everything really came together in terms of how exactly I'm going to go about this, what niche I'm going to be specializing in, etc., etc. Game collecting, although as great of a thing as it is and as much joy as it's brought me, it is not something that I want to 100% build a channel around. There's been a lot of different plans I've had for game collecting content, whether it be visiting retro game stores, reviewing retro game stores, and none of them have really, been as well developed as I would have liked them to be, as you can clearly see, because there hasn't been much content on this channel, and the content that is on the TikTok isn't really game collecting focused. But I really think that overall, there is probably a reason that I haven't been as consistent with it, and it's because I really like the act of game collecting more than I like the concept of making content around it, and I'm really trying to strike that balance. How exactly am I going to strike this balance? Well, I'd say how I'm going to do it is by ensuring that, full disclosure, this is probably the first time that I've actually thought about this question, and it's really made me think that overall, it's aside from the TikTok, I'm really going at this with not that much of a actual plan, and I really want to change that. I'm trying to get my streams in order, right? Trying to get back to streaming. I'm really trying to get my weekly videos, those weekly content videos, whether it be gaming discussions, gaming news, whatever it is that the channel's vision is moving forward. I want to be able to solidify that as we keep moving on. I really don't want this to just be a channel update. I really want this to be more so me talking about game collecting and overall my general history with it. So I got into game collecting in 2021, and this was around the time I got my first internship. I was a sophomore in college, and I had disposable income, right? I was living with my parents. I wasn't really paying for school, so there was a lot of just money that was really just for me, right? And this all really started because I wanted to relive my childhood, specifically the PS2 era. I really, really wanted to get back into having a PS2 again. And I found a PS2 on Facebook Marketplace. It came from the most smoke-ridden house you've ever seen. And I'm talking about everything just smelled like it was covered in cigarettes. And I was really worried about bringing it home to my parents' place, because it was just covered in cigarette smoke, right? Or the smell of cigarettes. And with some trash bags and dryer sheets, I was able to get the smell out and enjoy the new PS2 that I'd gotten, right? But then I realized, oh, okay, there's some other things I really want to explore and visit. So what about, the DS, right? Then I got myself another 3DS. What about the GameCube? Let me do that. What about the Nintendo 64? So it really became me wanting to relive my childhood and me wanting to get back a lot of the games I had previously, which is why I started with the PS2, and which is why even to this day, the PS2 is the biggest collection of games that I own. I think I own about 148 PS2 games, and I own 3 different PS2s. I own a fat PS2, a slim PS2, and a Japanese fat PS2. And it really started off as a way to relive my childhood. But as college went on, I didn't really have the time to play that many of the retro games I had, and so I was still primarily playing on my Switch, my PS5, really just more so into modern gaming and just trying to live my life in college. So really there wasn't a whole lot of gaming going on, really just the main titles I wanted to focus on and living my life, right? And then when I graduated, I realized that aside from work, I had all this extra free time, right? I wasn't seeing a lot of the friends that I had made in college because we had all parted, gone our separate ways, done different things. And I had all this free time. I had even more disposable income because I wasn't making intern money. I was making full-time money. And then I was like, well, I think it's time to choose a hobby. I had a lot of different life changes on that time. In addition to getting the job, I got a girlfriend. There's been a lot of life changes that had gone on around that time where I started to take on more responsibility. But I was like, well, I'm still living at the parents' crib. Why don't I start to use my disposable income to find a new hobby? And the hobby I immediately chose was gaming. It just felt very natural to me. I was like, okay, let me just get deeper into gaming, right? And that's when I really started to go ham with the collection. It feels like a blur to me now at this point because now I've been a collector for quite some time. So what it was like before I was a collector didn't really, feel like anything distinct in terms of my gaming journey. So in terms of where this all really started, I think aside from the PS2, I was like, all right, let me get another console that I've been sleeping on for quite some time, right? And that ended up being the GameCube, right? I didn't have a GameCube personally growing up, but those McDonald's play test things you used to see where they would have a Luigi's Mansion demo and Sonic Colors demo. Those were the things that really ingrained the GameCube into my mind and made me go, all right, I think once I really get into game collecting, this is the console I want to start with. So I got a GameCube. I started collecting GameCube games, and eventually it just spiraled into just more and more consoles. Nintendo console set, right? I completed the rounds on that. Then I completed the PlayStation round, Microsoft, and then I really just started branching out and wanting to, experience more of gaming history. So I got all the Sega consoles. I'm still missing the Sega CD. That's the one thing I'm missing. I got all the Sega systems, and that was pretty much it. I didn't really care that much for Atari or anything before that. After that, I was 100% into it. I was really interested in collecting games, not for the opportunity to make a profit off of them, because a lot of people see game collecting as something they can cash in on, as something that they can make an investment out of and they can really turn a profit on. But I saw game collecting as a way to appreciate gaming history, be super knowledgeable about this thing that had really, not saved my life, but just more so something that had really enriched my life, that really gave me something to do, especially when I was younger, aside from just go outside and, live my life, play games, was an opportunity to, really do that. And it really started to become more about the buying games than playing them. And that's when I really started to notice that I may have had a problem. A lot of people don't really, view it as a problem because, people are not really buying games at the clip that I was buying them. So in the past 2 years, really 4 years, because again, 2021 and 2025, I had amassed a bountiful collection. We're talking over 900 games. As I post more about the collection on YouTube, which I still will be doing, I just won't really be actively adding to it. I think you guys will start to see what I'm talking about in terms of the scope of what I've gotten in the past 2 years, and how a lot of people have really been telling me that, dude, like, your collection is way bigger than mine. And it's really because for the past 2 years I saw game collecting as the main thing that I did, and I really thought I had a problem because of the pace at which I was collecting. It felt like it was incredibly fast for someone that's, you know, just got into the hobby. And I wasn't really too worried about it from the finances side because, again, I didn't have many obligations. I can't say that it was a positive impact on my finances too, which was the crazy thing about it. You know, I didn't go into debt for game collecting. You know, as of right now, I'm debt free, thankfully. I wasn't really building towards anything. You know, there wasn't anything I was actively saving towards, because as of right now, you know, I was content with where I was at. And as long as I had my income, as long as I had my job, and as long as I had my pastimes, I was good. As time went on, I started to realize that there are things I want to build towards, and game collecting will probably get in the way of that, right? As I mentioned before, you know, I want to eventually get married, start a family, and to do that, you know, of course, eventually I'm going to have to, you know, eventually move out. Eventually I'm going to have to save up for a wedding, save up for a ring, you know, things like that. And, you know, I said this video was going to be transparent. Game collecting at the clip that I'm game collecting at right now isn't really going to help that. Now, I know what you're probably thinking, why don't you just slow it down, right? Like, completely slow it down. Well, the issue with that is that things are about to get a lot tighter, you know, money-wise. I'm potentially looking, you know, at, you know, changing, you know, my job situation, changing what exactly I'm going to be doing in the next 2 years, which is why I say, you know, I'm done game collecting, at least for the next 2 years. A little bit of a clickbaity title, I know. But it's exactly why I say, well, I'm done game collecting for the next 2 years, is because I'm potentially looking to, you know, go to grad school. You know, game collecting is an expensive hobby, right? Gaming in general, some people can argue, is an expensive hobby. As much as I'm trying to get the game content off the ground, and I still want to, I'm going to power through it no matter what. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm not doing as much gaming now as I will be in the next 2 years. That's really the issue with slowing down my purchasing speeds over the next 2 years. I guess to tie into that as well is that I really want to enjoy the fruits of my labor, right? I've been collecting for the past 2 years, but I haven't really played a lot of these games, right? It's funny, I was talking with a friend of mine, and he was asking me like, oh, how many of these games have you played? And I was like, you know, you always get that answer that like doesn't actually touch on what the actual answer is. Like, it's not a lie, but it's like you're not being 100% truthful. You know, I've touched a good amount of them, which is true, I have, but I haven't really sat down and played a lot of these games, and that's something I really want to change. So I got these games to play them, right? I don't have many sealed items in my collection. If an item is sealed in my collection, it just means that I don't really like opening things until I really get to them, and that's something that's really motivated me to play a game, because I don't like looking at something sealed on my shelf. So I'm not somebody who collects things that are sealed, I'm not somebody who collects things that are graded. It just really is a matter of me collecting things I'm going to play. And that's when I was like, okay, if I'm collecting all these different games, the backlog only grows the more I collect. So why don't I just actually enjoy the fruits of my labor, sit down and play some of these games? That's the thing too, where I've started implementing this in the past like month or so, because for the past month, I really have not been collecting as much as I would like. I recently went to the SoCal Gaming Expo at the beginning of June, and that was the last haul that I've really had, right? And I used to go game hunting like every weekend, right? It was a thing I loved doing every weekend, but I really haven't done that. And even the weekend that I'm recording this video right now, I spent a lot of that weekend inside playing video games. I just beat Banjo-Kazooie at the time of this recording. Great game. I'm playing through Tears of the Kingdom, trying to finally finish that. That's also been going good. I just beat Persona 5, and that has been something that I've really dedicated myself to, because I was like, all right, this is it. I'm done collecting. Let me sit down, hunker down for some games. And I am falling in love with gaming all over again, because I'm no longer looking for really awesome games that I want to buy. I'm now simply playing the games that I bought. I saw myself buying these games as me playing them, basically. Like somebody would say like, oh yeah, like I'm playing through Stellar Blade, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I own that game, but I haven't played it. Somebody would go, oh, I own, or like, oh, I'm playing through Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I'm like, oh, I own that game, but I haven't played it. There's just so much gaming history in my collection, because one thing I really focused on was getting a breadth of different titles. If it was critically acclaimed, I got it. That's why there's not that many expensive things in my collection. That's why there's a lot of things that I personally really like to play. I find a lot of platformers, a lot of RPGs in my collection, because I think my collection really reflects me. We can take pride in our collections. We can take pride in the fact that we got something rare, right? I don't want to proclaim myself as the better man here, because at the end of the day, I do like the fact that I have some rare things, right? I have the Seasons of Warfare edition for Three Houses. That was something I was really proud of getting, because Three Houses is one of my favorite games, and I own something really cool from Three Houses. But I also have a 35th anniversary, Fire Emblem Special Collection anniversary thing, and I never played the early Fire Emblem games, but I love Fire Emblem, so I was like, oh, okay, let me justify this purchase in a way, right? But there are also a ton of super expensive games that are on my list that are cult classics, but more people really know them for being expensive, and I still want them anyway. So I don't really want to say that I have a moral high ground because there's not a ton of expensive things in my collection. It just really is more so that it's shook out that way, and there are some still expensive things that I really want to get. As you collect more, you add on to the backlog. These past 2 years, gaming has really become my primary hobby, but there's a lot of things that I really enjoy, and I found game collecting to be something that was really taking me out of the other things that I enjoy. And this has been something that I've honestly had an issue with regarding gaming as a whole. Now, I touched on this in a separate video. You can click right here if you want to look at it. This is something that is not just exclusive to game collecting when it comes to me, because it had taken away my attention from so many other things as well. I used to watch a ton of anime. I don't really watch anime anymore. I want to get into things like drawing, more physical things like skateboarding. Those aren't really things I have time for because I'm doing a lot of gaming or game collecting. It's really just one or the other. But also just too, like, it started to become a little bit more of an obsession. And I made that little joke at the beginning of the video where I was like, oh, like, I'm a game collecting addict. But like, I mean, really though, like, for a short period of time, I met a lot of great people through this hobby. I met a lot of great people through game collecting. I met a lot of great people through gaming in general. But game collecting was the main thing that really united a lot of the friends I made along the way. I don't want to, or I thought that I didn't want to give that up because I wouldn't really have those friends anymore. But in reality, once you really entrench in this community and into this hobby, I mean, you always are, unless you suddenly grow a dislike for games, which I don't. I just want to step away from game collecting. It's healthy to have distance. It's healthy to take a break from something. That's really just all it is, right? It's just a break, because at the end of the day, as much as I love gaming, as much as I love game collecting, it is not the most important thing in my life. And for a long period of time, I was treating it like it was. So I want to take some time and really put my money where my mouth is and take a break. Gives my time to the things that really matter to me in life. I really want to pursue the education I really want to pursue. I really want to advance the career that I believe is going to open up a lot of doors for me. And I really want to be a lot more serious about creating content that is going to really reflect who I am as a person and the type of things that I really stand for. And I really love gaming. Gaming as a whole has become a big part of my life, really. This is a part of gaming that I'm comfortable with downsizing. There's a part of gaming that I'm comfortable with reducing in order to do things that I deem are a better use of my time. So, I know that kind of felt like it was a lot. What do you guys think in the comments below? Do you guys think that game collecting is something that you've struggled with in terms of priorities? If you're like me, is there anything else that you've struggled with in terms of creating those boundaries? This has been my first YouTube video in a minute, so I apologize if things feel a little awkward in terms of the editing or the dialogue. Thank you all so much. I will see you guys next week. Take care and God bless.